And so this old Rishi is going to share a little bit about the divine opening that occurred when I first came to Sedona some 30 years ago. And as I look back over my shoulder, I can certainly see, as can you see in your own life, how so much spiritual ripening was underway. I don't know how completely I was aware of how extraordinary and profound the spiritual readiness was becoming. But I received a divine call to come to Sedona. It certainly radically changed my life. And although I was a householder and I had children and obligations in the world and all of that, the divine call washed over me. A tsunami, an ocean of divine nectar. And then I found myself in Sedona. And I found myself literally engulfed in spiritual phenomena, engulfed and awashed in divine light, and the revelations and the insights and the epiphanies and the directives in terms of my service, and how this Rishi would become an instrument of the divine, an instrument of the divine plan itself. Revelation after revelation after revelation began to occur. And so I can't really say that there was any way to do other than respond, to do other than to answer the call. And if one can say to obey the will of God, we can certainly put it in that terms, but it is an awakening that came with a fiery inner imperative that was made known to me, wherein my core reality, my core self made known to itself that the immediacy, the power, the sacredness of the call to Sedona was something that simply could not be denied. So I put my affairs in order and came to Sedona and commenced a number of years of divine light experiences, as well as teaching and transmuting, and at the time primarily teaching spiritual healing. But what I really want to share to you is something of the profound quickening that takes place, and you may or may not be realizing how much you're being called, or the degree to which you're being readied, or the degree to which you're ripe and ready now. And so the divine call to Sedona, beloveds, into this gateway that I have been commissioned in terms of private work with initiates, with spiritual proteges, with earnestly seeking souls, with erhats and adepts, and those of you who are already on the line of force to attain your enlightenment in this lifetime. Come, the time is now. And to open the divine corridors, to have the masters begin to appear, to materialize, not just in the East, in the high Himalayas has been the references and stories and so forth, but for me they're not stories, because the appearance of the masters took place for me in the high Himalayas of Tibet, of Nepal, of India, and yet now as an emissary of that phenomena, I am called to open the divine corridors that the majesty of the Ascended Masters, those who walk between the worlds, the Nirmankayas, the guides of light, can indeed begin to manifest, to materialize in their light bodies. At the abode of the Masters, the Sedona sanctuary where I reside, the Rishi sanctuary. And so if you are called to this immaculate work, this divine calling, it is also a sacred gateway for 12 of you to be quickened, to move through the thresholds of Omni awakening through 4 stages of enlightenment with grace, with joy, saturating your life in divine service as you do, and to ultimately have 12 fully enlightened initiates here in Sedona who are about the holy work of the opening of the divine corridors and the manifestation of the great masters materializing in their light bodies. And imagine, if you will, the vibration, the light, the bright upon the bright, if you will, the majesty of this divine calling. And so if this reaches into the interiors of your being, if it touches your heart, if it strikes that chord of an inner imperative within yourself, come. We are called to hold forth a planetary corridor of light, that the holy masters, the great ones, the ascended masters of the spiritual hierarchy, can indeed materialize here in the West and begin the externalization that has been foretold of, that has been promised, that has been planned for thousands upon thousands upon thousands of years. My lifetimes are now consummated into this lifetime. The same is true for you. If you are called, come.